Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Good. Okay. Good.
On to the next five on our list here. We have Soul Surfer, which is I'm just gonna let Shaylee go. It's fine. I'll just watch the
I
Leafs
didn't even
game.
know
Because the Maple Leafs suck. Go!
you've seen this movie plenty of
I
times.
know,
You
but
can...
this is your jam, and we all know this is your jam.
Jam. Jam. Raspberry.
You go ahead. This is
Okay,
fine. Go
so
ahead.
this movie, we're back to the true stories again. The last couple, like The Fundamentals of Caring and Million Dollar Baby, were based on books, but they were not true stories. We're back to the true stories. This is the story of Bethany Hamilton, and when she was, I want to say 13, she was surfing. She was a competitive surfer up to this point, and I don't even think she was practicing for a competition or anything. I think they were just having fun. And she got attacked by a shark, and the shark bit off her arm. So she ends up an amputee. And the whole movie is basically her kind of finding her identity again, finding who she is, finding her relationship with God again, because they are like a Christian family, and finding out how to surf again. And I love it so much, and it helps that Dennis Quaid and Helen Hunter are excellent. But yeah, I don't know how to rant about this because it's just an excellent movie. And again, it's one of those I will go back to it if I need to I need a feel good disability movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I enjoyed it. Again, it's definitely more of a like a Shaylee type. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just more of a. I'm not much into like surfing movies and things like that. But
And I was like, if I could surf, if I was able-bodied enough to surf, I would be surfing. I kind of want to try bodyboarding one day anyway.
yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I will say it was weird seeing the guy who played Hercules in the
Oh
TV
yeah,
show in that movie, which was
I
super weird
forgot
for
he was
me.
also in it. Yeah. Okay.
He is, yes. So yeah, based on true events, great show. People go check it out.
And Bethany is still a competitive surfer to this day, as far as I know. She's had a couple kids.
What I
She's
could
got
do for everyone, and this is a little segue or a little off tangent, but what I could do for everyone, if people are interested in these movies, I can
link
put
them
them,
all.
I can put them up in our Plex server and give people access if people actually want them. I can password it, things like that. So if people want them, because we are such a small kind of
Yeah.
community,
And I've made Brian put all of these movies on Plex for the most part. He's been like every time he tries to find seats, he's like, "What is this movie? What?"
yeah. So it's one of those things where it's just gonna be if people are interested, I can put them up and
Yeah.
have them offered to the public. But
Why? I'm not that.
This is a movie that Shaylee and I both love, which is Extraordinary Measures, starring Brendan
Oh,
Fraser and
did I show you
Harrison
this? Did
Ford.
you know what it was
Oh,
before
I knew what it was before. I knew you.
Okay. Okay.
This came
Yeah.
out
Okay.
in.
I'll let you take this one though, because I'm running out of lung capacity, and I need.
Are you feeling tired and weak? If you are experiencing one or all of these symptoms, it may be because you are not breathing. Breathing.
To breathe for
This
a
one,
second.
you'll have to remind me on the exact disease that they have.
Pompeii.
Pompeii disease. Thank you. So this one, without the um the spoiler aspect of things, I'll just put it this way. A father loves his kids so much that have Pompeii disease that their lives are threatened at a very young age.
Yeah, they only live
So,
to like a max of 9 years old or something like that.
yes, so he does his own research on the internet and finds out that there's this one person in particular doing um, exciting
Harrison Ford.
research in an effort to find a cure. And he hunts this person down, and he's like, please let's team up and work on getting this drug into clinical trials. And That's basically the whole crux of the movie. Is
And Harrison Ford is initially like, no, screw off. I'm going to go do my own thing. And
yeah,
then eventually he develops the relationship with the kid. And I will spoiler, but he does find the reason that their bodies deteriorate and tries to fix it a little bit. And it's amazing. And I love Harrison Ford's character so much. That is why I love this movie so much, is because Harrison Ford's character is my favorite.
he's allowed to be a grumpy dick and everybody, and then he gets to be a
And
softie
yeah.
at the end.
It's
So-
great.
So yeah, so there's that one. This one again is a joint one for the two of us. Actually one of the more recent ones that actually came out. I think this came out in 2018. The Upside, starring
Oh yeah,
another
Bryan Cranston
Breaking Bad main character, and Bryan Cranston and Kevin
and also
Hart.
Kevin Hart. I will preface this by saying there is a French version, but Brian and I have both decided that the English version is much better. The French version came out before and they adapted it to English, but
It's more of the dynamic between the two characters in the English
it's
version.
very similar to Fundamentals of Caring.
Yeah, like they like grow from, well, this guy's an ex-convict and I'm just hiring this guy to piss off the person that says this guy
Runs my
isn't gonna
affairs,
work.
yeah.
And
then it turns into he's actually good at this, and it's excellent. And can we please talk about the catheter scene?
okay, so from a male perspective, here's the thing. I don't use a catheter, but if I were to ask my cousin or any other male member of my inner circle to put a catheter in that area, they would have the exact reaction that Kevin Hart had in the movie.
Yeah, it was good. Okay, so for those that don't know, a catheter is basically a long tube that you stick up someone's private area and into their bladder, and it relieves the bladder for them if you can't control it, which a lot of people with spinal cord injuries can.
And the premise of this particular scene is Kevin Hart is learning how to administer the catheter in the correct way so that Bryan Cranston's character can relieve himself. And he watches this happen and goes, "Oh no!" And yeah,
And Bryan Cranston just goes, "It's fine, I can't feel it," and Kevin Hart goes, "But I can."
yes, yeah. So
It's my favorite part of that entire movie.
it's very funny. The whole film is very funny, and it's a redemption story for Kevin Hart's character. And
Whose name I don't even remember. In the French version, it's Dre, or Dre or something. But
I think it's Dre in the English version too, actually. But it's also kind of a redemption story for Bryan Cranston's character too, because
Philip, yes.
he's kind of like,
He's been through some stuff. Wife
yeah,
passed away.
yeah, and
Hang
just
gliding accident.
not
Yeah.
loving the whole being in a wheelchair aspect of his
And
life.
just generally being alive thing, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up next, this one's a Shay movie, so it stars one of the girls from Mean Girls, and it's called the Brooke Ellison story. So
Oh yeah, she was. Yeah, okay, she was.
she's the one who was trying to make fetch happen. She's also the original Meg
Right.
from Family Guy. But
Wait, really? Oh,
yes.
that's weird. I didn't know that.
Yes. But Shaylee, take it away.
Okay,
Based on
so
a true story, but that's
yes.
all I can say.
as was the Upside. Actually, it was based on a book the guy wrote. Again, this was based on a book, and Brooke Ellison was when she got paralyzed. She was 11 years old, and she got into either she got ran over by a car on the way home, or it was a school bus, something or other. Either way, she ends up paralyzed from the neck down.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, running out of ability to talk. She ends up paralyzed from the neck down, and the book is written by her and her mother, because her mother was the one that more or less spent all the time with her, especially in college. She did all the caregiving because nobody else would. So the movie takes us from slightly before her accident to get a sense of who she was and whatever, the accident, the time in hospital, all the fights they had to go through there. They initially didn't even think Brooke would ever be going back to school or anything. So her parents, fought for it. And we're like, she still has a brain. She's just paralyzed. And worst case scenario, like, I will come to school and do the caregiving for her, because that was the school's big thing, was that we're worried the other kids might be disturbed by her needs. So obviously, both the mom and the dad were like, screw that. We're going to fight for our kid and we are going to let her live the life she wants. And it's from the time of her accident all the way to the time she graduated college with I don't even remember what degree, but she graduated Harvard.
With a master's in something, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but yeah. So that's another, like, when I'm in a mood, that is a go-to movie for me. I don't know why. It was filmed in like the 90s. The cinematography is terrible, but it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'll put it this way, it does border on inspo porn, but it does tell you
But it's like, it's
what
also
she
a
goes
really,
through.
yeah, it's also a really realistic depiction of what life as like that high level quadriplegic is like.
Yeah. So they do a good job of that. For the next set of films, we have You're Not You, starring Hilary Swank and Emily Rossum. Those who
Who
don't
is the
know who,
shameless chick?
yes, those who don't know who Emily Rossum is, she's the kind of caregiver for all the kids in Shameless. Great show. I highly recommend watching it.
Yeah. So that is mostly why Brian was like, okay, I will watch this with you. Initially, he was like, how do you have a library that goes this deep? And I will like preface, most of these movies come from my library of just random crap I've found when I'm in a mood that I need to like see other disabled characters on screen. And then Brian's like, okay, I'll put it on Flex and we're good.
Yeah, so tell the people about this movie. Do you remember the synopsis?
Yes, I do. Basically, Hilary Swank's character, like we see her. I don't think this is based on a true story. I think they just made this up. But Hilary Swank's character has ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, and initially we kind of see what her life is like before we see the relationship with her husband and whatever. Which, side note, is eventually a weird scenario. But yeah, eventually her ALS gets bad enough that they have to acknowledge it. And the husband is initially doing all the caregiving. And Hilary Swank is like, dude, we got to hire somebody. But it's not going to be like an old person nurse that I don't want to deal with. So she hires shameless chick. Give me a name again.
Emily Rossum.
Thank you. So she hires
You're welcome.
Emily Rossum.
That's why I'm here
Right.
to remember actors' names. That's...
Yeah, I remember what they're in, but I never remember their names. Anyway, so she hires Emily Rossum right out of college. Initially, it's kind of a bit of a holy crap, you're bad at this. And eventually, again, similar to Fundamentals of Caring, they end up developing a relationship, and Emily Rossum just kind of crushes it, and it's excellent. And also, side note that I just remembered, there is actually a character that also knows ASL because his brother is deaf, which is an interesting inclusion.
Yes.
So
I really can't add anything to that. Obviously, I'll just say I did enjoy the movie. I definitely enjoy all these. I just have only viewed them once, so Shay,
yeah, and I've viewed them many, many times because, like I said, I get in moods and I'm like, I need to see disabled characters and I need to like live vicariously. Anyway.
Yeah, so she's gonna be much better at like telling you about these and giving
Yes, I have got the library
a
of random
better
movies
review
nobody's
for
ever
sure.
heard.
So the next one I can chat about a bit because I enjoyed it quite a bit, and it also stars James McAvoy. Those of you who know him also plays Professor X in the X-Men films.
Oh yeah, okay. I was like, who's James McAvoy? Now I know what movie we're talking about. Okay.
So it's called Rory O'Shea Was Here, but it actually has two titles.
It's called Inside I'm Dancing, but then Rory O'Shea Was Here is in brackets.
Yeah, it's Rory O'Shea Was Here was the title in Ireland, I believe, and
And then Inside I'm Dancing was everywhere else.
Yes. So again, similar synopsis to kind of a little bit anyway in Music Within, just that these two characters are both disabled, And
Yes, James McAvoy's character has some sort of muscular dystrophy, and the other guy, whose name I don't remember, has cerebral palsy.
and it's basically a depiction of how they go from care home to care home, and then they meet each other, and James McAvoy's character can understand
He
the
becomes interpreter.
interpreter for the person with CP. So they decide, well, because we can function well together, why not somehow
Live
live together?
on our own, yeah.
That part of the story is kind of dickish with the father of the kid with CP. But again, I won't spoil that for you guys. We'll recommend you just go watch it.
Yeah.
Um,
And they end up moving into their own flat with like a single caregiver, which also like if you have two people that are like that high needs, because they're both pretty high level disabled, like you need more than one caregiver, but that's a whole other. They end up hiring someone they meet at a bar because she's hot mostly.
but again, I think that's more of like a lot of these are depicted as the person you hire is the person that doesn't treat you as
Like that's not a nurse. Because initially James McAvoy's character goes through a bunch of caregivers on his own because he's like, I don't want to be in an old folks home anymore. Screw this. So he goes through a bunch of people he interviewed, and they're all terrible in their own unique ways. Some of them are like super inspiring. Others are just old and condescending. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a weird. So you have to kind of have to find the right dynamic, and I think that's what we learned from this movie. Is just that
Yeah.
you need somebody that can joke around with you, but also treat you like you obviously
Yeah.
have needs and different things.
And also the relationship between the two characters is interesting because there does come a point where like James McAvoy's character is like, I can't follow you around forever. Like, but you would be screwed without me, basically.
Yeah, so it is a weird dynamic, but they do learn
So
to
good.
appreciate each other, and also learn to live. You gotta learn to live without that constant need of help, and I think that movie does a really
Yeah,
good job of depicting the ups and downs of that. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
the next one we have is Coda, which is a really new one.
Just got nominated for an Oscar. Troy Kotsur did. I'm so happy. He's like the first deaf guy to get an Oscar. Yay!
I guess this is our big representation for the deaf community.
So good.
So Shaylee, do you want to go ahead and do a synopsis of that one, or do you want me to take that one?
I can't. Yeah, no. Well, you can chime in too, but it stars Troy Kotsur, who is in Sue Thomas FBI, and Marley Matlin, who's in another movie we'll talk about on the not great list. But
Everyone knows who Marley Mantle is. Let's be.
yes,
If you
but
don't, you're living under a rock. But yeah, like
yeah,
Marley Matlin,
they're
is
both actually deaf characters. Which yeah, actually all three of them are. Even the brother, because he was in Switch at Birth too, and he's deaf.
yes,
So all three of them are deaf, which is
yes,
awesome. Actual deaf actors playing deaf characters. Yay. Um,
yep,
but synopsis is more or less the three of those family members are deaf, and the dad is a fisherman and whatever. And there's one kid who is hearing, so she's a child of a deaf adult, hence the name Coda. And she's kind of the one that, like a lot of Codas, I assume, has to handle everything. She's the one that handles all the phone calls for the business. She's the one that handles business deals between people. She's the interpreter. She's everything. Eventually, she does, join high school choir. And her teacher is like, you're really good. Like, I could get you a spot at Berkeley. And it's like a music college. And the whole movie is her just being like, I want to go, but like, I can't leave my family because they need me. They're screwed without me as interpreter, kind of thing. So the whole movie is them kind of trying to figure out how to function without her and how to let her have her own life. And the end few scenes, they're adorable. They all come to her Berkeley audition because they're finally like, okay, we can let her do this. We can function without her. So they all come to her Berkeley audition, and obviously they can't hear what's happening and they're just hoping that like it's good. So she starts citing it to them and I'm like, oh, it's so good. And there's a scene before that where Troy Coates they go to another concert and like she doesn't sign it this time. So after the dad is like, what were you singing about? So she explains it. And then he goes, can you sing it to me? And just puts his hand on her throat and like starts crying because he realizes what he's missing. And it's just, oh, so good.
So good! So good!
Yeah, it's an emotional wreck for Shay for sure, and I quite enjoy the music teacher that makes her
He's
go to
lovely.
church.
I enjoy him.
He I don't care if like he's eccentric and he makes me laugh. That's all I can say. He
Yes,
just makes me laugh,
it's
and
amazing.
I need a good chuckle in these movies. So like he provides the comedic relief. Um, so
That movie's excellent.
definitely worth a watch for sure. The next one is friend of the class.
Yeah, you've
Uh,
seen this one with me. You go. You can do this.
I think I've seen it enough to
You've
give
seen
it
it. Yeah.
a fair assessment. I think this. Am I wrong in saying that this is the smart kid one?
Tourette's teacher.
Oh, Tourette's teacher. That's right too. Okay, so Tourette's teacher. Um, is
Teacher with Tourette's, we should say.
yes, teacher with Tourette's. Um, I believe this is a true story as well.
Yeah, the guy
Um,
wrote a book and he's done interviews there on YouTube. If you want to, his name is Brad Cohen.
so basically, the premise of this is um an individual with Tourette's always wanted to be a teacher, and the whole synopsis is basically his journey to become that. And he goes through several interviews and
And
different.
nobody wants him because of the Tourette's. And a lot of his tics are vocal. So they think it's going to be distracting to the students. The students will make fun of him, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, so the first like our good 40 minutes of the film is him questioning everything and kind of being like, is this really worth
And also
it?
his dad being annoying because he didn't believe Tourette's was a thing and that like you could control it and just stop making the noises, you're fine.
Which is wild because I think it stars Ed Asner, which is super weird. Is it Ed Asner? I don't remember.
I
I
don't
just
know what
remember
his
the
name is.
dad being a complete dick, but I also
Yep.
thought he was famous. Anyways, so one school finally, takes a chance on him, and without going into in-depth spoilers, the way they depict how he deals with the kids at the start is just the reason why
So
we love
good.
this movie. He literally sits down with them and goes, "Okay, kids, I have Tourette's.
Ask me anything you want.
Ask me anything you want." And they all just go, they all raise their hands, they all have questions, and he sits there and answers all of them.
Yeah.
And by the
And
end,
then nobody ever brings it up again. And he's just a great teacher and great with the kids. And it's
yeah,
lovely.
and by the end, everybody loves him. And they do
It's
go
amazing.
through, he does go through ups and downs, like,
One of his students ends up with cancer, which is horrible. I hate it.
and he does worry about the distraction thing when things get hairy there. But without going any further, definitely go watch that movie if you're into like kind of just seeing um, a journey of what it's like to follow your dreams and actually succeed in them. Because a lot of the ones we hate, I'll put it this way, are inspo porn, but they face no real difficulties
Yeah.
in the movies, if that makes
Or
sense.
it just has no plot whatsoever. And you're like, why does this exist? Anyway.
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, it actually does a good job of his rise, but also shows that there is still difficulties as
Yeah.
you go. There's not like you just peak and everything's fine after that.
Yeah, no, it's not smooth sailing ever.
There's still hurdles you have to deal with, and I think that was the big one for me. It's just that they did a good
Yeah.
job of that. So, moving on, I think we might as well finish these sets of movies with
Yeah.
this one. These continuing the good list is this is one of mine. Um,
Good, you can talk again. Excellent.
yes, it's Aviator starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
And
Um,
this one we were humming and hawing for a while because we were like, OCD, like, are we delving into mental disorders? Eventually we decided yes, just because it's an excellent depiction.
the struggles of OCD by Howard Hughes are expansive. And if you've ever actually read what he dealt with later on in his life, it's actually horrifying. So I won't delve too deep into it, but the way they do it for him and how he deals with it during legal proceedings and things like that really illustrates how incredible of a man Howard Hughes actually was, and also how horrifying his life ended up being. But if you want like a full synopsis, go like because he's got an autobiography. I'll go read it. I've read some of it myself. I was very intrigued by him when the movie came out, and I was like, okay, how expansive was this? Because without spoilers, he literally locks himself in a room for
Naked at one point.
like naked and has bottles of pee everywhere. This is
Because
literally
he can't leave because he's
yeah.
scared enough of the outside world that it's like,
Yeah, and it gets worse. Like the movie doesn't delve into that, but I think it's just a good um, depiction of a mental illness
illness.
that we don't often see in movies that are Hollywoodized, and I think Leonardo DiCaprio does a really great job of
Yeah.
depicting where he comes from and where he ends up, and also illustrating that the movie as it ends shows you he's just not going to be better. It's just going to be a
No,
thing that
it
he's going to
doesn't get
deal with.
better. And
And
initially he's really good at masking it and he makes it like as small as possible and subtle as possible and it just slowly increases to the point where he can't function anymore.
yeah, so I think that's the reason I put it there because I have. I'll put it this way: I have, as I illustrated with these, I have a very certain criteria that's gonna make me go, ugh, I don't want to watch this disabled movie because a lot of it is just like, I don't really need to, I don't really need that. I need a realistic depiction because
Yeah.
a lot of Hollywood movies that depict our disabilities, others, and everything else is just like, oh, you're going to make it, you're going to be fine, and everything. And a lot of us are just regular people, and I think that's okay. And I think that's the reason why I love Aviator so much, is just because he does do incredible things, but you can tell the whole time that his
That he's
OCD
just mentally
is
losing it.
still there. And
Yeah.
it's getting worse, and that's just the way life goes. And maybe that's a
And there's
dark
only a
take,
certain point that you can
but
fight past it. Like eventually you
yeah,
just can't anymore.
maybe that's a dark take, but I I enjoy the realism of films like that. So
Yeah.
we both love Ray. So like honestly, like okay, everyone who has who knows who Ray Charles is, and if you don't, look him up. Ray
Go
Charles
Google, he's excellent.
is a excellent blues singer from the early 30s, 40s, and 50s,
Who also happens to be blind.
and he was blind. Um, the movie starring Jamie Foxx,
Could not have
um,
picked a better person to play him. The
he actually
blindisms are
looks like
perfect.
he actually looks like Ray, and he spent hours upon hours upon hours affecting his Ray's mannerisms to put onto the screen. Now, for me, we were humming and hawing about this movie just because it was very, very Hollywoodized. I love the movie. It's
So
one of those movies that's I'm pretty sure 2.5 hours long.
it
And
absolutely is. It's about the same length as Walk the Line, which is why I don't ever make it through it.
um so it's a long film, and it does start out kind of showing you his how he became blind, how he dealt with that trauma without going into spoilers.
And
Um
that's what I like about the film is they show how the trauma happened, but then they don't focus on it. And when he does, end up going down the darker path of like drug addiction, whatever, the way they depict that as a blind person is perfect. Like, first of all, the blind mannerisms of like the rocking back and forth, the never making eye contact, that's all lovely. And then when he does get to the point where he's super like drug addicted and like hallucinating and losing it, I love the fact that they made the hallucinations like obviously we could see it because we're watching it, but they made them tactile. Like instead of just seeing, the sources of his trauma, he would like, I remember the one scene he like reached into a suitcase and it was wet and he felt like a person's foot or whatever it was. I was like, I love that they made it tactile.
Yeah, they really did. They really did like a good job of stuff like that. My again, my only issue with it, and I love the music in it and everything else,
And Jamie
is
Foxx can sing and it's amazing. Oh,
um my only issue with it was like um just they showed his struggle enough where you could appreciate it, but at the same time, as he got older, um, and recovered and everything, they didn't show him facing any hurdles after that, so that was kind of my issue. It's just like, oh, he's good to go after this and everything. So I think I love the movie, but I think it could have done a better job of how he aged and things like that, because it obviously has to stop at a certain point, and they just kind of fade out and go, Ray did this for the last remaining years of his life, and that kind of stuff. But I do recommend you go watch it because he was also very influential in terms of
music style.
his choices in race-related issues,
Oh
um,
yeah.
um, and things of those natures as well. So I would recommend it for anyone kind of wanting a realistic representation of what Ray Charles's life as a musician was like. I just would have liked to know a little bit more about what he was like as he aged, because it kind of intrigued me to like when I watched the movie, I was like, huh, I wonder why like Ray like stopped playing like fast-paced music, like 'cause he legitimately stopped playing like fast-paced music, and I asked a bunch of people about it, and I guess as he grew older, because of his blindness and different things, he couldn't keep up with some of the keys, so he left some of his faster paced music and went into gospel and different things.
Well, yeah, and that kind of makes sense because, like, A, as you get older, your hands get like harder to use, and B, his hands or his eyes, like he's having to touch everything to figure out where he is.
Yeah, and I
So,
think that also was a depiction of like how he went forward with like you know his life after drugs and just turning to God and things like that. And I think
hmm.
the pace of the music slowed down. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing.
No,
I would have just liked to learn more about that, like
and
why
I'm
that
sure, yeah,
changed.
I'm
But
sure there comes a point where also like his ears couldn't keep up with it because obviously, like, even learning a new song, they show one scene in the movie where the producer literally has to sing it because obviously he can't read music or anything. So maybe his auditory processing slowed down a little bit too.
which is entirely possible. Which again, that's part of my issue. Is I just would have liked, and I get it's a 2.5 hour movie. You don't really film so much. That's fine. But I just would have liked to have that too. But Ray is great. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It should be, honestly, it is on the good movie list, so definitely go watch it. It's just one of those we were kind of humming and hawing about where we should talk about it. Do have one more, but we can quickly go through that one. The Rocky Dennis story, also known as Meth.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, yay.
Um, so this movie
Can
checks
you
up.
tell this is a passion project of mine because
Yeah,
finding
this
all the
movie check
disability movies ever.
this movie checks off all the boxes for Shay. It's got Cher in it,
It's
Cher's
got Sam
thing.
Elliott in it.
Sam Elliott's in it, and she's got a thing
I,
for Sam Elliott. Um, And yeah, it's just one of those movies that just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Like even like the sad parts of it. Like you can understand fully um like
Like give them a synopsis first. So basically, this
yeah.
kid, I don't remember what he has. I can Kyle Google it because it's a complicated name. But he has a thing that basically makes his facial structure change and his brain swell or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. And so he kind of looks obviously different than everybody else. His face just looks
Yeah.
different. And that's fine. And throughout the movie he goes through spurts of, I have my headaches and things like that, and he keeps an upbeat attitude throughout the whole movie. And Cher will
Make
say,
sure he gets treated like they come from a biker gang. They're all bikers. And Cher is just kind of like a no nonsense mom that's like, you are going to treat my kid like a person.
yeah, and he gets accepted at school because like, he just is who he is, and everybody just respects that. Um, there then and the biker gang obviously protects him, even if people are being an ass to
Yes.
him. So by the end, everybody, learns to respect Rocky and
I
everything.
mean, Cher's got her issues, but
And Cher, like the way they depict like the mother son relationship with him and Cher, in terms of him dealing with addicts, because he was supposed to die at a very young age. I think like
yeah, and like every time there's a scene where they go to a doctor's appointment, and like every time the doctor's like, this is gonna be his life expectancy, blah 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 blah. He shouldn't be alive. And like Cher and Rocky both start parroting it because they've heard it so many times that they're just like, screw it, don't
yeah,
care anymore. He's got a cheeseburger waiting for him. Like,
yeah, it's the doctor always goes, he's gonna be dead in 4 months. Or something like that, and then they just
yeah,
kind of like LOL funny.
yeah,
Um,
it's excellent. Love it so much.
they also depict the struggles he has in terms of like keeping relationships and also finding love and finding people to accept him. Because although the majority of people in the movie do accept him, he finds a love interest, and then the parents see him, take one look
And
at
are
him,
like, you
and
shouldn't be with
immediately
this person.
judge him, and then they won't allow her to talk to him or anything
Yeah.
like that.
And we
So
should note this is also based on a true story. This was a person that existed.
yeah, and the crazy thing is the love interest he falls in love with is actually blind as well. So
Oh, right.
she actually accepts him for who he is immediately.
Because she
And
can't see him and does not care.
yeah, and without delving into too many spoilers, I think we've already passed that point at this point.
Yeah, we did. Sorry.
But honestly, from my perspective, the reason I love this movie so much is it also depicts the struggle of a choice. Because I really do. This is not actually explicitly said, to be fair. This is kind of a fan theory of mine. But,
Where are you going with this?
well, I'll just say it. So Rocky Dennis, as we know, gets headaches, and he fights through them and deals with them, and that's how he survives. At the end of the movie, he gets one final headache, but doesn't tell his mom about it.
Yeah, usually he calls his mom and she'll be like, kind of distract him. Like, tell me something good. Tell me whatever. And distracts him and like kind of comforts him through it. And then all good.
But I think after his sadness, he has a headache, honestly, kind of says a final goodbye to his mom on the couch. She goes, "Is everything all right?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then goes to bed and then doesn't wake up. And I think, and this is just me, I think he made a choice. He made a choice not to tell, and he knew it was like, okay, I'm not happy. I'm just going to die now. And as sad as that sounds,
Oh, why did you?
okay, as
Oh,
sad as that sounds, I think it depicts the realism in terms of like him accepting the fact that there is aspects of his life that sometimes
suck.
suck, and may not ever get better. And that's a tough one for people to deal with. And I think he made that choice. Also loving the people he loved and loving his life. But the tough part is going through that sadness and ultimately potentially making that choice is a tough but realistic way to potentially end that movie. And that's part of the reason why I love the movie, whether or not that's true or not. But he definitely withheld that information from his mom. He could have said, "Hey, mom, I'm not doing so hot. I like."
And they all, like, throughout the entire movie, you know, every time he gets a headache, it's a sign of his brain, like, getting worse, and it could possibly kill him.
But he took that moment with his mom. She goes, "Are you all right?" He goes, "Yeah, it's just a little bit of a headache. It's nothing bad." But you could tell in the tone of his voice, he was like, "It's worse than what it is, but I'm also not going to tell you." And I think he made that choice. Whether or not that was the right choice, I just think it was a good way of depicting what it's like to sometimes deal with pain all the time. And
Yeah, and eventually you're just like, screw it, I am done. This is not worth it.
yeah, and I think the mixture of emotional pain and the mixture of
I'm always so
real
sad by the
pain
end of it. I'm like, I can't. Ooh.
is just a really good adaptation of that film. So that concludes actually our good films that we went
Yes.
through.
And hopefully we gave you enough of a list that you're like, okay, I can go check all these out now and join them in having the repertoire of random movies nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah, so I think that we'll end that here, and we'll get the list of our bad movies out. Click like if you like the video. Click subscribe if you really like it.
Click the notification bell so you never miss any of our posts.
And tell all your friends to go watch these movies.
Because they're all excellent and you need to see them and experience them.
We love you guys. Keep bringing us some ideas. We'll film. Thank you very much for watching. We love you guys so much.
Bye, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed.
Where are the stars tonight?
Oh man, that was a lot of recording.